Oil prices have surged this morning, and global stock markets are mostly lower as investors eye threats to energy supplies from the Iran war. The rise in crude prices, which will likely translate into higher prices at gasoline pumps because of fears that a widening war could slow the global flow of oil. Joining us now with more on what the Middle East conflict can mean for us here at home is Assistant Professor and Associate Department Head of Political Science at the U of M, Bryan Peeler. Good morning, Bryan. Good morning, Michelle. Thanks so much for joining us. Now, first of all, you deal with legalities when it comes to the UN and these kinds of, sort of wars and how they get started. Would you consider this a legal war?
No, this is an illegal use of force under the UN Charter. I guess the president submitted a what's called a report. I'm sorry, his war report to the Senate. Probably, I think it was last night. So under domestic law, the president has to send a notification when they use force, and the justification in that letter was the threat that the Iranian nuclear program poses to the world, that poses to U.S. forces in the region as well. Okay. Of course, we were told a couple of weeks ago that the U.S. had obliterated Iran's nuclear capabilities. Under international law, you're only allowed to use force when you are the victim of an armed attack or about to be the victim of an armed attack. So there was no armed attack against the United States. The Iranians' use of force against U.S. allies in the region, they haven't used force against Iran, so those are also illegal. So there's all sorts of illegal uses of force going on right now.
So, I mean, the conflict was between the U.S. and then it was, of course, with Israel, but it's now expanded to Hezbollah. It's sort of going beyond those two borders as well. So do you think that this will continue to spread and will continue in the long term?
Yeah, well, honestly, I was thinking yesterday that reporting is sort of that the Iranian military capabilities have been significantly degraded in the last several weeks because of attacks like this. So that's why apparently the Saudis and the Israelis were pushing the United States to do this. Marco Rubio, I guess yesterday, said that they thought the Israelis were going to attack anyway, and if they did attack, that U.S. forces would be then vulnerable, so they were going to get involved in this war. I was thinking more that, what we would see because Iranians, the military capabilities have been degraded, that there'd be more terrorist activity. Now I'm thinking, that maybe there will be more of a wider war given these attacks and that Hezbollah is getting involved. Yeah, so I'm more worried than I was yesterday, for sure.
Okay, well, we also know it's going to affect us in some way. Even though we're far away from the conflict, it will affect us here. The Strait of Hormuz, which is where 1/5 of the world's oil gets transported through that strait, is now being put on hold by Iran. What will that mean to the rest of us here?
It's going to mean higher gas prices for sure in the next several weeks. We're going to have to wait and see about, if they're going to be able to attack. I guess the Iranian Revolutionary Guard has said that they're going to attack any shipping that tries to go through the straits. I'd expect to see attacks on terrorist attacks or attacks by the Revolutionary Guard on oil platforms as well in the region, possibly. So this is going to get worse before it gets better.
And what other impact can you see here
for Canadian? I just sort of people, there's the Iranian community in Canada. Their families are under threat. There's several civilian casualties already. So I would say, oil prices and just sort of the threat to civilians. This is bad. It's very bad.
And with oil prices, of course, so does food prices go up because of transportation. Well, Bryan, thank you so much for sharing your perspective with us, and you'll have to come back as this continues, hopefully.
Thanks for having me on.
Thank you, Bryan.